right, so to talk about this a little bit more, again, the Native American Association, Native American Party, um, and they created groups like the Supreme Order of the Star Spangled, I put start, sorry, Star Spangled Banner. I just noticed that I wrote start there after years with this PowerPoint. Anyways, um, so the Star Spangled Banner, they were called the Know Nothings, and why they were called the Know Nothings is because they were a secret order, and when people would ask about what they were about, they were told to say they know nothing, and that kind of became a pejorative term used by them that they just kind of went with. They were into banning Catholics or aliens from holding public office, more restrictive naturalization laws, and literacy tests for voting. Does this sound familiar? There was this strong sentiment against them. And by the way, we're going to see this more when we cover the Mexican-American War. We're going to talk in detail about the St. Patrick's Brigade, where Irish American Catholics actually defected and supported the Mexicans who ultimately lost, and they paid the price for that. But they joined the Mexican side because, one, they were Catholic and they felt a lot of discrimination against them. Okay, and so they went there. Now, I want you again to think about what's taking place now, where we have many people feel uncomfortable with Islam's compatibility in a Western democracy or the Muslim community. I'm just being blunt because this is really a topic that takes place in private and even in public, because they see Sharia law in other countries and worry, what do Muslims think about this? This guy that claims to be the Khalifa, the head of the Islamic State, in the name of all Muslims, can Muslims be loyal to the United States, or are they more loyal to somebody like a Khalifa? This is how a lot of people think. Well, for Catholics, they follow the Pope, right? And there was a lot of conspiracy theories taking place at the time that the Pope is like this kind of puppet master. Still, these views are still prevalent now. Just look on YouTube, Google Pope conspiracy, and there's tons. The idea is that Catholics were ultimately beholden to the Pope more than anything else. They were agents for a foreign kind of shadowy government. Okay, so Jews have always kind of had to deal with this, but Catholics under Protestants kind of became like kind of second-tiered or third-tiered Jews, so to speak, in the conspiracy theory order of things. Okay, and then there was real politics with the real things going down, which, for instance, you did have Catholic Irish defecting, becoming traitors to the Republic by joining sides with the Mexicans, for instance, in that war. So, you're going to have these kind of events that can be looked at to kind of create panic or fear about these loyalties. And many that were leading this were those Scots-Irish, those Protestant Scots-Irish that had this long-standing, literally battle with Irish Catholics from back in Europe, in Ireland. And by the way, that's still taking place right now. That conflict hasn't been fully resolved between the Protestant Northern Ireland and Catholic Ireland. Okay, and so then same with Germans. There were German Catholics coming in. That was also a problem for them. Slavs, Slavic peoples such as Poles and so forth. Okay, and they did a lot to infiltrate. The irony is they were worried about foreigners infiltrating our society. Well, many of these nativist groups infiltrated the political and legal system of the United States. And in places like San Francisco, where they tried to restrict immigration of Chinese, there were some laws even making it where essentially Chinese were not even considered, like, were not even allowed to do things. It was basically segregation, like in this deep South of blacks and whites, and things that would be hard to justify constitutionally, but were a part of it nonetheless. And so again, I brought in some modern times issues over Mexico and illegal immigration in America and issues of Islam. And those are different situations in a different time. And at the same time, I think that we can see how how this time period can give us a little insight into where we're at now. And we should be reminded that when we forget about time periods like this, where my parents were a product of a Catholic Protestant union, and many of us don't think so ideological about all these kind of things. Majority of Americans celebrating St. Patrick's Day, happy that they have like 1/5 Irish Catholic in them. That we've moved on from that, and so we can move on again. But it looks like we have to kind of always rethink ourselves. So that's all I have to say on that. And I will move on to the next one. Canals and Railroads. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember being in high school and even middle school, and there would be just, tons of documentaries on railroads and canals, and I found them to be completely boring. Some girls and boys just have this natural love of things like that, but I just found those documentaries in particular. I think if I would have went to see the trains, exploring the canals. I used to swim in canals. That was gross. I'll never do that again now. But anyways, these are big deals in terms of history and development. So their importance is significant. It's just, maybe boring documentaries on them kind of like dull your mind from actually kind of taking it in. After 1840, railroads supplanted all other modes of transportation basically until the mid-20th century. And in a sense, this really created the reality of the United States on the ground. When you can link a faraway state to another state, and people can stay on board, and you have that actual, road connecting everything together. That's like kind of a real facts on the ground kind of thing, right? And you're going to have ways of bringing in water and agriculture and all sorts of things that make these kind of innovations important and significant. Later on, it's actually going to be a problem in later American history, which we're not going to get into, where you had some communities that didn't have access to a lot of goods outside of railroads, and the railroad company could charge exuberant amounts to the locals who had no other option and felt really taken advantage of. It's like going to the movie theater, and you want a soda and popcorn, and it's like, $200 or something. And you're like, what? But you got to have your soda and the popcorn with the movie. And of course they know that, and they don't let you bring anything in. And if you can't sneak it in, you're paying so much money, and this kind of thing would happen. But anyways, that's another time. All right. The Telegraph. Okay, this is really significant. Bursting into American life in 1844. Then you had more than 50,000 miles of wire connecting most of the country. That's significant, right? Because now you can communicate on a much faster level. Again, these are things we take for granted. I mean, look now, many revolutions that have recently been taking place, or attempted revolutions, should I say, some uprisings in the Arab world, were people putting pictures on Facebook or on YouTube of a terrible act. Or think about the problems that is happening between race relations and what the police are experiencing in America, where you can watch a police officer strangle to death somebody in New York, which we did. I mean, I watched it. It was posted, and it's kind of hard to soak in. And, it's creating a kind of real big question in this country, this discussion. And for those of you in law enforcement, I'm not trying to jump too much on this, just to merely point out that what I'm pointing out is that technology is changing perceptions of things, and it creates a whole new set of circumstances, right? That's my main point that I want to get at. And you can do it immediately, right? And that's not something that we've had before. And so again, we talk about how material technology changes culture, perception, how you deal with things. In the Vietnam War, Americans used to watch the war every night. It's one of the things that demoralized them about supporting the Vietnam War. Now the U.S. government has embedded reporters to control the information that's shown. Think about all these wars we've had in Afghanistan and Iraq with all our technology. How much of footage have you seen of these wars on CNN or Fox News? You haven't. Period. Almost nothing. And then what you have is this other divide of like Al Jazeera, which shows it in gory detail over and over and over to the Arab world, watching the whole thing unfold, which creates a whole different way of a populace dealing with those things. So again, what I'm trying to get back at is that things like a telegraph, video, phones, iPhones, these kind of technologies really change things fast, and it really creates new challenges for the state, for politics, all this. And in some cases, it gives them a little extra power. So I kind of wanted to just drop, when we're talking about the telegraph, I want you to think about the super significance of something like this and the role it's going to play, for instance, in the Civil War, for example. Okay? So that's all I have to say on that. Journalism, kind of just back what I was going to talk about. We have the invention of the press, the rotary press, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this. I'll go in more detail in the next lecture.